So, in case anyone doesn't know because they didn't watch my Dark Souls Remastered review, I had a cold a few months back. Well, that cold turned into bronchitis, it seemed. And since then, I haven't really fully been able to get rid of it. That's why this video's a week late. And unfortunately, if I can't get rid of it soon, I'm gonna have to find some way to be able to pay to go to the doctor, which likely means getting extra work that takes away from the channel. I'm not gonna promise that if that happens, I'll be able to find some way to continue uploading content. I will definitely try, but this doesn't make me any money at all. So, since it takes so much of my time, it's the thing that will have to be cut if that's the case. We'll see if that ends up being the case, but if it is, I guess that's it until I can figure out some way to balance things better. Just thought I'd let everybody know in case. Regardless, on to the video at hand. Let me start this video by explaining something up front. If you liked Sonic Mania, and you just want more characters, its Encore DLC, otherwise known as Sonic Mania Plus, is more than likely going to be worth it. At just $5 US, I can't really envision a world where the DLC isn't worth it, so this video is going to be pretty simple from here on. Let's answer a few questions really quickly. 1. What's included in the update, which you'll get for free just for owning Mania? Well, as far as I can tell, you get the revamped time attack mode with the ability to save replays. You get the boss alterations, including the removal of the biggest way to cheese the final boss and a brand new Metal Sonic boss. You get the ability to turn off the timer. You get the ability to play with more players in the multiplayer mode. Cutscenes can now be skipped. There's now a game completion screen that shows you how long you spent on each stage, as well as how much time you spent in total. You get new stage transitions, where they were previously missing, and you can now use the options like the Insta-Shield or Peel Out on save files, rather than only in no-save mode. There are other odds and ends, but that's the meat of the update, all of which is free. 2. What's new to Plus? In the DLC, you gain access to a new checkpoint minigame in normal mode, which is accessed after you get all of the medals in Blue Sphere. You gain access to Mighty the Armadillo and Ray the Flying Squirrel, who both have their own unique abilities. And you gain access to Encore Mode, which is an alternate way to play the game. Again, there are some odds and ends on top of this as well. This really doesn't sound like a lot of additions, and in a sense it isn't, but it also provides a ton of replay value for those of you who love the game already, and just want more options. 3. What are the new checkpoint/bonus stages like? The new bonus stage is a 3D pinball table, which allows you to earn rings, shields, and continues, and in Encore Mode, you can also nab characters you're currently missing. It's not an absolutely fantastic minigame, but it's a passable little bit of pinball that serves perfectly as a much quicker and more lucrative alternative to Blue Sphere. And the fact that you no longer have to completely ignore these checkpoint warps once you get every medal, and the pinball game can be used to aid you in your current playthrough is fantastic. It offers the benefits that you got from these stages in 3 and Knuckles, which was one of the largest criticisms I previously had with the initial release of the game. 4. What are Mighty and Ray like? Mighty has a ground pound attack. It halts his horizontal momentum in favor of instant vertical momentum. It can kill enemies nearby, but it can't be used to bounce high into the sky off of said enemies, nor can it be used terribly well to go flying down quarter pipes, unless they're particularly deep or you start the ground pound fairly high above said ramp. It can also break through certain surfaces in Encore Mode. On top of this, Mighty is immune to spikes when he's rolled into a ball, which allows him to not only avoid taking damage and losing rings, but also allows him to avoid losing shields. Overall, I like the way Mighty plays. Similar to Knuckles, he offers a playstyle that's genuinely different than Sonic, since his ability can't be used to speed up to a particularly effective degree. Crucially though, he has a pretty strong rhythm of play once you get the hang of him. The ground pound is like a small rest in momentum, a beat that you hit before you spin dash off again at lightning speed. Ray is the character that initially seems more useless, but is actually much greater at offering speed. Arguably better than any other character outside of Sonic himself, actually. I think he seems weaker at first because his ability takes genuine time to master. Ray's core gimmick, as many have pointed out, is almost identical to the cape power-up in Super Mario World. The key difference is that it requires 2 buttons to control. Instead of just holding back on the D-pad to gain altitude and then letting go to angle Mario toward the ground, and repeating as needed, Ray is tilted up when you press back and down when you press forward. In a sense, it's best to think of it like controlling a plane, but in 2D. It's much harder to manage than Mario's cape at first, but from what I've seen, it's equally as versatile. The biggest weakness is that it's not protected from any angle, which means he's much more vulnerable than Tails, who's protected from the top, or Knuckles, who's protected from the front when gliding. In a way, Mighty is almost like a super easy mode, and Ray is a mode that's easier than Knuckles, harder than Sonic, but as speedy as Sonic when played well. 5. What's Encore Mode? Encore Mode is similar to the regular old Mania mode, minus a few key differences. First, you start in a shortened, empty version of Angel Island Act 1. This was really the only disappointment about the DLC to me, because it felt less like an addition and more like trolling. I think I'd be okay with it if it was also added to Mania mode, so you could get to the end of the act and then you'd find Eggman with the Phantom Ruby. But since it's only accessible in Encore Mode, it feels like half of an already basically non-existent addition. Especially since, I don't know if you can now, but before the update and DLC officially released, some players in Europe got some form of the update accidentally, and you could access Angel Island within this update. It wasn't fully finished, but it implies that it may still be possible to access the zone without paying for the DLC, albeit through glitches. So at that point, you kind of have to ask, what are you really paying for in regards to the added zone? The second major difference in Encore Mode is the color palette of each level. Some of them are nice, some of them are barely noticeable, and some of them are what I would consider kind of ugly. Lots of dark, dingy colors that remind me of Sonic CD's bad futures. This isn't something I'd really call a downside, because you'll hardly notice 10 seconds after you reach each zone. But it's a shame after seeing the stark contrast between the two versions of Green Hill. The third Encore change comes down to the level design and object placement. I've heard a lot of people say that this is barely changed, but I noticed a lot of little minor things that really added up. In particular, the special stage rings are all in different spots, which for me transformed the experience. Speaking of, the fourth difference is with the special stages, which are all new variants of old stages, and are much more difficult. In particular, I struggled with the second one, which I didn't even beat until after I finished Encore Mode and went back to get every emerald. They're fun, but they're brutal, and this is coming from someone who can easily get every emerald in the base game before the end of Studiopolis Act 1. I think I personally prefer the stages in Basic Mania because I've never really enjoyed how torturous it can sometimes be to get every emerald in the older Sonic games, and Encore Mode I think makes it a little bit too difficult for me personally. And finally, the lives system is completely different in Encore Mode. Instead of lives, you have characters, one of each playable character to be exact. You can have 2 characters out at a time, and anytime the AI companion is nearby, you can switch to them. Swapping to the other characters in standby requires power-up boxes. This makes the game significantly harder in some ways, because you have a maximum of 5 lives, and you can't always guarantee you'll have the characters you want for tackling a challenge. Dying with a character will instantly swap them with another, and if you lose all of them, it's game over. Continues have been added to the game, and Encore Mode is where they make the biggest impact. I find the mode overall to be a great alternate way to play the game. It feels surprisingly fresh to be able to be blazing through a level as Sonic, only to stop, switch to Knuckles, and climb up a wall for some goodies. At first I wanted to criticize the fact that you can only switch between 2 characters at a time, but I quickly realized it was actually the most captivating part of the mode for me. The glue that pulled it all together, really. simply because it forced me to play with the cards I'd been dealt. I got to experiment a lot more, and I felt the rush of adrenaline the most when I was in particularly tough spots with characters I felt vulnerable while using. In many ways, Mania Plus is a teeny tiny disappointment, but I completely blame that on myself for being so impressed with Mania initially that I let my hype get the better of me. Mania Plus is great, and it's definitely worth the price of admission, even if all you plan to do is go through Mania mode with Ray and Mighty. So if you have Mania already and you have $5 laying around and you enjoyed Mania, I don't think you'll really have a problem with this DLC. Shorter video, I know. I'm hard at work on some other things for the channel that I will hopefully be able to get out because I'll be healthy, but also I just really felt like there wasn't a ton to say on Encore. It's a good deal and great fun, but nothing earth-shattering like Mania itself was. But what do you guys think? Have you played Mania Plus? Do you enjoy it? Did it meet your expectations, and was it worth the price? What's your favorite or least favorite part of it? Sound off in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.